Good questions.
Hey man, a quick question. I start dedicating next week, and I
Exciting.
kind of yeah. Kind of talked to you this over the chat, but how to implement exercise before, like at the beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day. How would you recommend it? And I typically spend, 60 minutes in the gym lifting. Would you recommend cutting that down a little, or sort of putting in some extra cardio for a little more of the dopamine hit, or what do you think?
Dude, good question. So, exercise routine and dedicated board prep. So, first things first is definitely highly recommend it. Dedicate is a time when everybody wants to stop exercising. I'm okay with you toning it back a little bit during dedicated if you want to. Like, let's say you do 5 days a week. Like, if you want to do 3 days, like, you're not going to regress on 3 days of exercise per week. You'll still be able to maintain your current basis of where you're at. You might not really make a ton of upward trajectory movement, but at least you'll maintain what you have and still get the physiologic benefits of it. With that being said, I recommend to exercise at the point in the day when you feel that your attention and energy levels drop. So I don't actually recommend usually doing morning workouts during dedicated simply because, especially if you have caffeine before a workout, whether it's pre-workout or coffee or whatever, like you want that when your energy level starts to lag. Usually for most people, it's like mid-morning, midday type of thing. And I also don't recommend to do anything that's kind of like a quote unquote reward for yourself, like exercising, when you haven't already put in a solid amount of work for the day. So like let's say that your worst thing on your to-do list is 80 UWorld questions and you hate taking blocks. I would recommend to get that done before you reward yourself with the gym. Like get the worst thing out of the way at the bare minimum before you start doing any kind of exercise. Next thing, I would stray away from anything that's powerlifting heavy when you're in dedicated because it's very taxing on your CNS. So something that's more like hit training or circuit training or high intensity, something like that, that will not necessarily be putting like, I don't want you doing like powerlifting squats and deadlifts and stuff as at like a 1 rep max during your dedicated, obviously. Like number one, you don't want to hurt yourself when you got much bigger things to be worrying about. But number two, it's super hard on your CNS, makes you require more sleep, that kind of thing. If you can do 1 or 2 of your workouts per week outside, even better, just to get the sun exposure, that's super helpful. Definitely like, dude, cardio is not something that I enjoy doing like a ton, honestly. Like compared to lifting, I mean, I enjoy it, but lifting's my thing. And when it comes down to it, cardio is super helpful when you're studying because the movement, the momentum, the blood flow, there's just so many benefits to it, especially if you do it outside. So I don't have like a set workout that is like the dedicated workout. I'm sure I could come up with something for you if you really want me to, but I think if you stand to those principles, you'll be good.
Cool, super helpful. Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Not a problem. Anybody else have any questions? We had a good variety tonight.
I got a quick question.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hi. I'm about 80% done with UWorld for step two. I'm gonna finish it, and I have step two in about 6 weeks. So my plan is to finish UWorld and then start running through it again. But I wanted to ask for that second run through. Do you recommend just doing just random 40 question time blocks, or do you think that if I have identified any weaker areas to do like made system by system blocks for that or heading into it aside from the NBMEs?
So the question is for second run through of UWorld, should I do system by system or randomized blocks? Correct. I essentially very, 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 very rarely would recommend you to do system by system on your second run through. On your second run through, especially if you're within like a month and a half to 2 months of your exam, you really want to be doing it by randomized if you can. If your score takes a super substantial hit, like say you drop like 20% from where you're scoring, then that's something that we can evaluate, see if there's a really big glaring weak point, something like that. But let's say that you're averaging right now 65% in most of your sections, and then you go take randomized and maybe it drops to 63 or whatever. Totally fine. That's not a problem at all. But if you drop to like 40, then obviously we need to figure out what's going on there. Maybe you're relying too much on context clues of the system that you're going through or whatever it may be. But if you don't notice a big fall off in your performance, 100% I would recommend randomized. You're close enough now that you need to be practicing how you would on the actual test. That makes sense?
And I'm just gonna ask a follow-up too. How many blocks a day during dedicated do you recommend completing, like a minimum of 2 up to 4, or do you have a way of thinking about it?
Bare minimum is 2, especially for step 2. I mean, you've already been through step 1 prep. You know how that is. Like, you know how to do questions, get through them effectively and efficiently. Really, what it comes down to of how many questions to do in a day is based upon how much time you have to allocate for all of your remaining questions plus your practice tests. That's really all it comes down to. Like, let's say that your exam was in 12 weeks and you had 1,200 questions, then I mean, you could like obviously not have to push yourself hard at all, right? But if your exam's in 3 weeks and you have 5,000 questions to get through, that's a different answer. So it's really 100% dependent on you getting through everything rather than you got to do 136 questions per day because that's the magic number. So what I would recommend to do is calculate how many questions you have for UWorld, calculate the CMS forms, and calculate the NBME forms, and divide that just by how many days you have remaining. And that's the bare minimum that you need to do per day.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So basically, that's your homework tonight. Just grab a schedule, see how many days exactly to your test, count up all the questions that you have remaining, and that's what you need to do. I generally say, so like, how many days do you have to your test?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. Okay, so let's say you have 42 days. What I would say would be to actually calculate that out of 35 days. So force yourself to almost like Parkinson's law, the amount of time that it's going to take you so that you give yourself some wiggle room on the back end. That way, that last week or so, if something happens, you at least built that buffer in, but also so that you can, if there's any weak points, you can focus on them, whether it's through Zonky, like I recommend the week prior to your step 2, or through any of the other content as well. So definitely compress the time if possible, which it's obviously going to make it more stressful for you on the front end, but on the back end, you'll be grateful that you pushed yourself for it. And that at least gives you like a methodical way instead of saying, hey, I need to do like 85 questions today. It's like, oh, shoot, if I don't get through these 120 questions, I will certainly not get through all the stuff I know I need to, is how I look at it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.
I have a quick question. So one thing that I wish I did during step 1 was to take, I think you can take the free 120 at the testing center. I wish I did that. Is it only the free 120 that you can take at the testing center? Is it any CSMS? And do you know what that process looks like? Did you do it?
I don't think that was an option back whenever I did it, but it was actually something that I found out about maybe like 6 months after I graduated or something like that. I know for sure that the free 120 you can take at the testing center. And I think you can take an NBME if it's one that you purchase online. I'm not 100% certain on that. I can't remember. And now that they've actually changed it from Prometric to the new testing centers, it'll be something that you'd have to ask them. But certainly, whichever testing center you're going to take it at, just shoot them an email or give them a call, and I'm sure they can answer that for you.
And do you have any recommendation on what NBME I should take last in terms of like if I'm evaluating where I'm at in my assessment?
NBME 14 is the newest one, so you want to take the newest closest to your exam. It's the most representative. Okay. Like you wouldn't want to take NBME 6, for example, right before your test.
Yeah.
And definitely NBME 9 and 12 are 2 that I would highly recommend not taking like the week before your test if you can avoid it, because they're usually confidence blows.
I heard 9 is like, I was going to just get it over with and take it first. Like no, those 2.
Yeah, that's fine. That's totally reasonable.
One follow-up question. Sorry, guys. So I have the PDFs for them. Do you recommend that I take them on the NBME website? Not that I'm like advocating for pirating, but.
So everybody's a little bit different on this. The short answer is if you can reasonably afford it and it isn't going to be a hassle whatsoever for you, whether you have loans or family doesn't mind paying for it, then I always recommend to buy it. And I'm not even saying this from like a ethical or legal perspective. I'm saying like, number one, because it makes it more realistic and makes it more something that you put focus on and emphasis on, because it has now like a monetary value associated with it. It feels more real, feels more like the actual test. And it makes you more pressured, right? Like it's a lot more pressure to take a test that's timed and one that you paid for rather than one that you just like got offline and you're doing it in your living room on your couch. You know what I mean? Like it's a much difference in how you simulate the actual feeling of the test itself. So the caveat here really is if it's not something you can reasonably afford, then obviously do what you got to do. I'm not going to tell you one way or another, but at the end of the day, I recommend to buy them. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions?
Sorry, just to follow up, Doc, wanted to ask would you also recommend doing the old free 120 as well, or do the new free 120 and that'll be sufficient?
The old free 120 is solid still, and there's also a lot of overlap. So if you're using the free 120 to gauge your readiness for the exam, definitely take the newer one. And also like if you take the newer one, just know that when you take the older one, your performance will be massively inflated. Like I've had some people get like 95% by taking like one free 120, then take the old one like 3 days later, just because so many of the questions are similar or overlap concepts, whatever. And some are just reused. But if you have time, I mean, it's just more questions. It's free questions. Some of them will be a little bit new. Some of them will be a little bit differently asked. So if you can do it, cool. If not, it's not going to make or break you.
All right, noted. Thanks, Tom.
You guys got for me? Anybody else have any questions? I know a few people had to dip out. Things going on tonight.
I have one question. For
Yeah.
step 2, do you recommend something else for content review besides the crash course and or UWorld notes?
Yes, absolutely. I will show you in 1 second. Can you see my screen still? Can you see me in school? Okay. So I just gave you access to a mini course on here that is called In Progress Review. You see this one right here?
Yes.
These are, it's like probably 10 to 20 hours of content that I've recorded that is all 100% high yields for step 2, stuff that I've seen tested. I would 100% go through these at some point prior to your exam. All these are complete, but I'm adding more and more to it. I got like some other things that I'm working on that it's going to be included in. And so it's like stuff that I have that's complete, but it's not been actually like uploaded to anywhere yet. So anybody that wants access to this that's preparing for step 2, go ahead and just shoot me a DM and I'm happy to give you access to this while I'm adding to it in the meantime. Like these last 4 things on here I'm working on. Like there's a bunch of stuff in here that is essentially part of a like little mini course that I'm working on. So it'd be cool.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
So,
actually
but
really
no
helpful.
step 2, right?
Sorry.
First
Go
aid.
ahead.
We
Sorry,
don't
I
use
heard-
first aid for a step 2 at all, right?
No. First aid for step 2, number 1, it's got inaccuracies in it, but number 2, it's just like so convoluted that it's just not worth the time and headache. And it's like also too superficial at the same time oftentimes. I think you'll find as soon as you go through these review materials that it'll be really helpful for you. It's very similar to if you go to like, for example, like I don't know if you'd seen like some of these like shelf exam reviews. It's very similar in style to those reviews that I'm working on, where basically I go through and I'll pull up the notes here real quick, where I like go through and okay, this is the diagnostic test. The stuff in yellow is the treatment. The stuff in red is the stuff that's also tested commonly. You know what I mean? Like it's very, very similar format. So if you like those ones, then you'll certainly like the stuff I just gave you access to.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Awesome. Do you guys have any other last minute questions? I love these live sessions. I always have a good time on them. It's like so much better than answering questions. Like, I mean, sure, the community tab's cool and whatnot. And it's fun to answer questions like via messaging, but like it's just not the same as on live. Like I'd rather do live 100 times in a row. That's just me though. Some people prefer like posting stuff and whatnot, which is also awesome because you can get other people's feedback. But if it's a question directly for me, I always prefer it on the live sessions. Well,
This was really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Really good.
absolutely. Y'all take it easy.
Also, yeah, I was just gonna say that videos that I watched in the members area, I watched a lot of them. I still have a couple more to do. I'm trying to do questions in between because I can only focus on videos for so long.
Totally
But
get
it's
it.
actually really helpful. Like I ran it into questions like on UWorld that I was like, oh, I got this right just because I watched the video. It's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome, man. Glad to hear you're feeling better too.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll end it here tonight, guys. Take it easy.
All right, see you, Doc.
Also, I'll make an announcement, or actually, I'll just update the calendar tab as soon as I know my exact call schedule for May, and we'll put on the weekly sessions for May as soon as I know what days I'll be off of call. So actually, it shouldn't be bad because we have a night float this month, which is something that we like almost never have. Word of the wise to you guys here. If you're going into a residency that takes a lot of call, aka anything that's essentially surgical, you really want a night float. If there's an option between multiple programs where, and what I mean by night float is essentially a resident that their only job the whole month is to cover stuff overnight. And so obviously it sucks when you're that person for the 1 month, but it is phenomenal whenever you have that. And we just don't have a lot of people in my residency program just because there's only one person per year. And so there's not always enough manpower to facilitate that between all the chiefs because we have 3 hospitals to cover. And so maybe like 3 or 4 months of the year, we have a night float where it just works out perfectly that there's enough people where somebody just only covers nights. And so that way I'm essentially not pulling all nighters like every 4th night. And so it just makes your life so much freaking better. So word of the wise, if they mention a night float at a program, that's a huge plus. I thought that was kind of stupid when I was interviewing. I'm like, who would care? That's dumb. I'll work whatever. But trust me, it really adds up when, like, let's say you're on for my hospital, for my program, we do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you have to work. So it's basically Friday starting at 6 a.m. And if you're on call that weekend, you're on call from Friday, 6 a.m., all the way Friday night, all the way Saturday, all the way Sunday, all the way to Monday at 6 p.m. And so you're on essentially like 96 hours. And then let's just say that you're obviously not going to be on call on Tuesday because you just were on for 96 hours. But let's say you're on call again on Wednesday or Thursday. Like you're so exhausted that if you don't have a night float to help out with that, like if you had a bad call, you're totally wrecked. And there's been times where you basically don't sleep that whole time. And so you maybe sleep on the couch in between a case, but obviously that's not like conducive to doing well and like feeling recuperated, right? And so like if that's the case, if you have a night float, then like at 6 p.m., boom, check out your pager, and that's their problem now. And like in a nice way, obviously, but it's like that's their job for the month. And so thankfully, all that to say, we have a night float for May. So my birthday month is going to be awesome. Tomorrow or 2 days from now is my birthday. So
Happy birthday in advance.
thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Happy birthday.
Appreciate it. Well, hey, you guys have a fantastic evening. Good seeing you as always, and hope to see you on the next one. I'll put it up on the calendar probably tomorrow or the next day. See ya.